The night the storm rolled over Chicago, hail rattled against the windshield of my battered white van like pennies in a tin can. I'd already logged 11 hours ferrying bouquets all over the city, and the last address on my handheld scanner made me groan. Riviere Tower, 61st floor. Of course the final stop had to be the skyline piercing condo every gossip column drooled over. Special handling orchids. The manifest read, purchased by one Vivian Laurent. Tech investors swore she could turn code into gold. Tabloids called her the Queen of River North. To me she was just another signature and hopefully a decent tip before I went home to my studio walk-up that smelled perpetually of instant noodles. The doorman eyed my rain-soaked leather jacket and the clay-stained sneakers poking from beneath my cargo pants. "Ms. Laurent is expecting you," he said, accent crisp and practiced. He pressed a keycard against an elevator panel. The doors whispered open. No lobby music, no numbered buttons, just a single brass plate etched with PH. I stepped inside clutching the tall glass cylinder of midnight blue orchids, praying the lightning wouldn't cut the power mid-ride. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked feral. Curls plastered to my face, mascara smudged from the downpour, cheeks flushed with cold. The elevator stopped directly in her living room. There was no transitional hallway, no doorframe, just the hush of a vast space lit by floor-to-ceiling windows and the indigo glow of the city below. I shuffled onto polished walnut planks, immediately self-conscious about the puddle forming at my feet. A fireplace flickered at the far end, and beside it, barefoot on pale marble, stood a woman in a slate-gray silk wrap, a stemmed glass of Pinot held like an afterthought. Waves of raven hair brushed her collarbones. Her skin caught the firelight like porcelain tinted with rose. "Delivery for Ms. Vivian Laurent," I croaked, voice hoarse from the wind. My name tag, Sam Wood, Meadowmuse Floral, felt suddenly childish. She didn't correct me, didn't reach for the arrangement. Instead her gaze skimmed the droplets sliding from my hair to my knuckles. "You're shivering," she observed, tone warm velvet over steel. "Set the orchids on the console. Then take this." She extended her wine glass toward me as though we'd agreed on this exchange hours ago. I hesitated. Company policy screamed no alcohol on duty, but her half-smile made obedience feel inevitable. I set the vase beneath a gold-framed abstract painting and accepted the glass. The stem was cool, her fingertips warmer than the fire. The wine tasted of dark cherries and impossible comfort. I should get your signature," I stammered. "In a minute." She drifted closer, robe sash whispering across her thigh. Raindrops on my lashes blurred the lights behind her, turning her silhouette into something cinematic. "You've delivered to Riviere before," she said, more statement than question. "I've seen you once or twice from the balcony. The girl with the mismatched sneakers." Heat crawled up my neck. "They're the only pair that survive puddles." Soft laugh. "Practical is underrated." She tilted her head, studying me as though memorizing a brushstroke. "What's your name?" "Samantha," I said. "No one but debt collectors called me that." "Sam." "Sam." She tasted it like a rare vintage, eyes lingering. "Would you like to dry off? The rain won't let up for hours, and my concierge can radio the garage for towels." My supervisor's voice boomed in my brain. "Clock out, drop keys, sleep," but every nerve leaned toward her fireplace. He nodded. "Just a minute, if that's okay." She vanished through an archway and returned with a plush sage green robe and a white towel that smelled faintly of sandalwood. "Bathrooms to the right," she murmured, fingertips brushing my wrist as she passed the bundle over. Sparks traveled straight to my spine. Inside the marble bathroom, I peeled off my damp layers and stared at myself in the mirror. Freckles, wind-burned cheeks, shoulders tense with disbelief. I wrapped the robe around me. It settled like a second skin, warm and impossibly soft. A tiny monogram, VL, rested over my heart. I pressed my palm to it, then exhaled and stepped back into the living room. Vivian lounged on a charcoal sectional, legs crossed, swirling the remaining wine. An untouched mug of steaming cocoa waited on the coffee table. "For you," she said. Wine when you're thawed, chocolate until then. My laugh came out shaky. You bribe every courier like this. Only the ones wearing thunderstorms. Her grin softened into something earnest. You spend all day handing strangers beauty. Someone should hand some back. The fireplace crackled. Thunder rolled across the skyline. We talked about nothing important, yet everything. She told me her first startup failed so spectacularly that she sold her car to pay interns. I told her my mother grows peonies behind our Indiana duplex and mails me pressed petals in envelopes I can't afford to answer. Hours slipped unnoticed, words floating between us like petals on rainwater. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch beyond accidental brushes of knuckles when she refilled my mug. But an invisible thread stretched tighter with every shared breath. Near midnight I rose reluctant. I should go. My boss will dock tomorrow's shift if this robe isn't back by sunrise. She stood too, close enough that the silk of her wrap whispered against mine. Keep it, Sam. Her voice dipped to a hush. Consider it collateral. For the next delivery. My pulse stuttered. What am I delivering? She leaned in, lips barely grazing the shell of my ear. Yourself when you're ready. Then she stepped back, eyes bright but unreadable, and pressed her fingerprint to the elevator scanner. The doors slid open like the mouth of a secret. As I descended, clutching the robe around me, the city lights blurred into rivers of gold. I should have been terrified, of misplaced trust, of unbridgeable worlds, yet all I felt was a dizzy, fragile hope. Outside, the storm had calmed to a mist that kissed my skin. I walked the 6 blocks to my apartment with the robe's sleeves flapping and her scent, amber and rain, woven into the fabric. Sleep never came. Instead I lay awake, replaying her voice, her gaze, the promise stitched into 2 simple words. Come back. I woke before dawn, the pink-gray hint of sunrise just bleeding through my crooked blinds. Vivian's robe, her robe, hung over the back of my only chair, folds of sage silk catching the first weak light like something holy. Even after a handful of restless hours, her perfume still clung to it, warm amber with some note I couldn't name, as though the scent itself cost more than my monthly rent. I tried to pretend the night before had been a pleasant hallucination born of exhaustion, but the apartment smelled like her. When I touched my lips I could still taste the cocoa she'd brewed. I showered, tugged on jeans stiff from too many cycles, and forced my courier polo over my head. The robe stayed on the chair, a quiet, luxurious threat to my grip on reality. The morning routes crawled. Every traffic light lingered on red. Every elevator stalled. Each bouquet I delivered felt suddenly counterfeit. Cheap carnations pretending to be roses, roses pretending to be love. At lunchtime I caught myself staring at my reflection in a deli window, hunting for traces of the woman who'd stood barefoot in a billionaire's living room and felt, for one brilliant hour, desired. My reflection only showed a tired 20-something with a permanent coffee stain on her sleeve. I just finished stacking empty crates in the shop's back room when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Still dry, courier. A punch of adrenaline shot through me. I wiped my hands on my cargo pockets and typed. Mostly. The city's trying to drown itself again though. 3 dots appeared, vanished, returned. I'm in meetings until 6. After that, I want to feed you dinner you can't pronounce. Yes. I grinned so hard it hurt. The rest of the shift flew. At 5:45 I clocked out, dashed 3 blocks to my building, and flung open drawers like a thief. What does a florist wear to dine 600 feet in the air with a woman who signs 7-figure deals before breakfast? I landed on black skinny jeans, no holes, and a soft charcoal sweater that made my eyes look greener than they were. I hesitated over shoes, then shoved my battered boots on anyway. There was something honest about their scuffs. I clipped my curls up, swiped mascara, dabbed tinted balm that claimed to be Merlot-proof. At 6 sharp, a sleek electric sedan idled by the curb. The driver greeted me by name, held the rear door. City lights blurred into comet trails while rain skated across the windows. By the time we reached Riviere Tower, my pulse drummed everywhere, in wrists, throat, knees. The elevator whooshed open onto Vivian's penthouse again, but the scene had shifted. Lights dimmed low, hurricane lamps flickering on the floor like constellations. A long teak table extended near the windows, set for two with matte black plates and chopsticks balanced on slivers of jade. Steam curled from an assortment of silver tins. The aroma, coconut, lime, something fiery, made my stomach roar. Vivian emerged from the kitchen carrying a pot of jasmine tea. Tonight her silk robe was midnight blue, tied loosely enough to flaunt a slender slice of collarbone. She set the pot down, then took a deliberate moment to look me over. The heat of it sent a blush from my chest to my hairline. "You clean up well, Samantha," she said, voice like a cello. "Sam," I corrected automatically, nerves turning my grin lopsided. "Sam," she repeated softer. "Come, eat before I undress you with compliments instead." We sat. She poured tea for me first. Tiny porcelain cups the color of seafoam. I studied her in the candlelight. The faint freckle near her temple, the way her robe's cuff brushed the table when she reached for a dumpling. She asked about my day, and listened like market fluctuations depended on my answers. I told her how roses wilt if left too near a cooling vent, how peonies bruise if drivers corner too hard. She told me how venture capitalists bruise too, ego instead of petals, and laughed when I nearly choked on soup. Between courses the rain intensified, wind rattling the glass. She glanced at the storm, then at me. "I used to love nights like this," she admitted, folding a napkin between restless fingers. "But penthouses can feel like gilded aquariums. A girl could drown behind windows so thick no one hears her banging to get out." I set my chopsticks down. "I hear you." Her eyes softened, a velvet eclipse. "Yes, you do." Silence stretched. Not awkward, not empty, but taut with something electric. She reached across the table, brushed her thumb over a tiny cut on my knuckle I hadn't noticed. The touch traveled like heat up my arm. "Dessert or honesty first?" she asked. "Honesty," I whispered, pulse hammering. She stood, walked around the table, and offered her hand. I took it and let her pull me to my feet. The lamps threw gold across her cheekbones. My boots suddenly felt ridiculous on the Persian rug, but she didn't seem to mind. She took a breath as though standing at the edge of some skyscraper ledge. "I want to kiss you, Sam, but only if you want it back. I don't chase people. I build things and I buy things, and people usually fold into one of those categories. You don't." Lightning flashed behind her, casting blue across her profile. Deep inside my chest, a door I'd nailed shut years ago creaked open. I slid my hands up the sleeves of her robe until my fingertips found warm skin at her wrists. "Kiss me," I said. The first press of her mouth was featherlight, a question. I answered by angling closer, catching her lower lip between mine. The second kiss tasted of tea and rain and risk. The third stole my balance, her palm splaying over my spine to keep me upright. When we finally eased apart, our foreheads rested together, breaths tangled. "Dangerous," she murmured, echoing the word she'd used about me the night before. "You make me forget schedules." "Good," I said. "Schedules are rude." She laughed, a low, delighted sound that might have powered half the city. We drifted to the giant sectional, collapsing into cushions. She curled her legs beneath her, tugged me close until my knee brushed hers. The storm roared outside, but inside it was only the hush of two heartbeats sinking. She told me about the first time a headline misquoted her, how she'd cried in a bathroom stall, then vowed never to show tears again. I told her about the night I left home at 17 with $40 and a backpack full of books nicked from thrift stores. She traced the calluses on my palms. I traced the faint surgical scar at her ribs she kept hidden beneath silk. Hours slipped like pearls off a broken string. Midnight bled toward 2, then 3. We didn't drink more wine. We drank each other's presence, greedy. Sometime past 3:30 she stifled a yawn, cheeks flushing. "Stay," she whispered. "Just sleep. No expectations." I hesitated, the battered voice of self-preservation reminding me worlds like hers swallow girls like me. But she was looking at me like I wasn't disposable. And there are moments you either trust or regret forever. He nodded. She fetched me a toothbrush still in plastic, soft cotton shorts, an oversized northwestern sweatshirt that fell mid-thigh on me. We brushed our teeth side by side, laughing about how domestic it felt, two near strangers sharing mint foam. In her bedroom, the lights dimmed automatically to amber. We slipped under a duvet light as breath. She spooned me from behind, one arm coiled around my waist, her knees tucked into the backs of mine. "Wake me if you get cold," she murmured against my hair. "I'm warm," I promised, and somewhere between thunderclaps, I actually believed it. Morning sunlight spilled across the sheets and onto the floorboards, painting everything in soft gold. For a heartbeat I panicked. Late for work, rent due. Then the memory of the night's serenity wrapped around me like silk. Vivian was already up, faint sounds of clinking china drifting from the kitchen. I followed the smell of coffee. She stood barefoot at the counter, robe swapped for gray joggers and a white tank that revealed toned arms inked with the faintest constellation of freckles. She poured black coffee into a stoneware mug and slid it across the island toward me. "Kramer's a war crime," she warned. "I like war," I said, dumping in sugar instead. The corner of her mouth quirked. Her phone pinged from somewhere, but she ignored it. Instead, she studied me in the morning light, eyes soft and unguarded. "I feel steady," she said, as though the admission cost her a fortune. "Usually mornings after something new feel like hangovers. This feels like possibility." The words lodged under my breastbone. I reached out, covering her hand. "Possibility," I echoed. "I could get used to that." Beep. Then her gaze flicked to the window, where gray clouds gathered like gossip. "But you have a shift. And I have sharks to wrestle." Armor slid back over her expression, not cold, just practiced. We exchanged numbers properly, kissed once, quick, sweet, promise-heavy, and she pressed the penthouse keycard into my palm. "For when schedules are rude again," she said. I pocketed it, heart thudding like a drumline. The elevator ride down felt shorter than ever. Outside, the sky broke open. Relentless rain, city sirens, buses hissing along puddled streets. I walked the 3 blocks to the van feeling untouchable, Vivian's taste still on my tongue, her keycard hot against my thigh. It took exactly 4 hours for reality to intrude. At lunch break I scrolled my phone and froze. A gossip blog headline. "Mystery courier leaves Riviera Tower at 4 a.m. Who is tech queen Vivian Laurent's new muse?" The paparazzi shot was blurry but unmistakably me. My boots splash frozen mid-stride. My stomach plummeted. I didn't know which terrified me more, the exposure or the thought that Vivian might be dragged into scandal because of me. I typed a text with trembling thumbs. "There's press about last night. I'm so sorry." I stared, then deleted, then typed again. Before I could hit send, my screen lit up with her name. "Let them speculate. Dinner tonight. We'll cook. Disaster guaranteed." A laugh escaped despite the knot in my gut. "I own a fire extinguisher." "Perfect," she replied. "Bring it." "And some, yeah." 3 dots blinked, paused, then, "Don't disappear on me." I pressed the phone to my chest, pulse racing. Outside, rain hammered dumpster lids like drumbeats. Inside, possibility shone brighter than fear, for now. And I chose, with trembling certainty, to chase it. I hit Vivian's floor at 6:30 on the dot, a bright red kitchen extinguisher tucked like contraband beneath my arm. The hallway smelled of garlic and something distinctly scorched. A shrill beep pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, the condo's smoke alarm singing its death aria. When the elevator doors parted, a gray cloud drifted past my knees. I sprinted into the living room, extinguisher ready, prepared to hose down a 5-star inferno. Vivian stood at the island fanning a baking sheet with a silk pillow. Charred strips that might once have been zucchini curled in surrender. She turned, cheeks flushed, hair whipped into a lopsided knot, and burst out laughing. "Before you judge," she said over the alarm, "remember you volunteered for this." I pulled the pin, aimed at the smoking tray, and squeezed. White foam hissed, extinguishing both fire and any illusion that my night would be ordinary. The alarm halted. Silence descended, broken only by our breath and the drip-drip of fire suffocated olive oil sliding off marble. We collapsed onto the cool floor tiles, backs against the fridge, laughter echoing in the vent hood. When we finally calmed, she nudged my knee with hers. Crisis management, excellent. Dinner, salvageable. I surveyed the carnage. We could order pizza before the fire marshal arrives. Deal. Her smile dimmed a notch, eyes searching mine. Did reporters bother you today? They tried. I told her about the telephoto lens poking through the shop's front window, about customers scattering like pigeons, how my manager pulled me aside, voice equal parts pity and fear. Bad press hurts business, Sam. Maybe take a leave until it blows over. By closing, I'd boxed tulips with shaking hands and punched out for the last time. A jobless florist clutching a paper bag of leftover daisies no one bought. Vivian's jaw set. I'll call him. No, I cut in softer than I felt. I don't want you buying my problems. We said we'd fight together, not replace each other's battles. She absorbed that, then nodded. A subtle shift from protector to partner. All right, we fight. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She ignored it, but the screen lit long enough for me to see the caller ID. Board chair, urgent. Take it, I said. It can wait. It's waiting on your marble right now. I rose, shoved the extinguisher aside, and set the phone in her hand. 10 minutes. I'll order pizza and unburn whatever's left of your dignity. She smirked but answered, pacing toward the balcony. I busied myself scrubbing soot off the stove, yet her muffled words still reached me. Phrases like optics, shareholder confidence, and a name I didn't recognize. Elias Harper. The pit in my stomach tightened. Pizza arrived before she returned. We ate on the terrace as drizzle threaded through warm air. Chicago's skyline blinking like a restless heartbeat. She finally spoke. The board wants a statement. Preferably one that frames last night's blog as exaggeration. They want you to lie. They want me to pretend you're an employee I barely know and that the rumor mill misspotted us. Then they'll slide a friendly gossip piece about me dating our CFO, Elias, to stabilize the stock price. She plucked cheese from her slice, expression brittle. They say it's temporary. Optics until next quarter's earnings call. I swallowed cardboard crust. What do you want? Her eyes met mine, stormy and unblinking. You! A gust whipped hair across my face. Then tell them no. I did. They threatened a vote to remove me as CEO if stock dips another point. She shrugged, feigning nonchalance she didn't feel. Founders get fired from their own empires every day. A slow ache bloomed behind my ribs. Vivian teetered on the edge of losing everything she'd built because she refused to deny me. I loved her fiercely for that, and feared what it would cost her. Maybe. The word tasted like rust, but I said it anyway. Maybe step back from us publicly. For now. Hurt flashed in her eyes. You're asking me to pretend you don't matter. I'm asking you not to lose your life's work over week-old gossip. What's the point of an empire if I can't stand in it with you? She pushed away the pizza box and paced the balcony plank. Below, camera flashes flickered like distant fireworks. Paparazzi already camped at street level. She stopped, knuckles on the railing, and exhaled. I can't breathe in their narrative, Sam. Either I control the story or they will. Her gaze lifted to mine. Help me write the truth. I stepped into her space, sliding arms around her waist. Truth, then. Together. The plan formed over lukewarm coffee at 1 a.m. Vivian would call a press conference in 48 hours, not to spin, but to announce. Yes, I'm dating Samantha Wood. No, the relationship isn't for sale. We'd appear side by side, answer questions, redirect the focus to a joint venture. A boutique floral tech startup combining my design with her logistics AI, proving we were partners in more than headlines. If the world wanted a narrative, we'd give them one rooted in creation, not scandal. By dawn the outline was set. Venue booked, invites blasted to reputable journalists, Product mock-ups rendered on Vivian's tablet while I sketched bouquet concepts with hotel pens across parchment napkins. Exhaustion painted the morning hazy, but the adrenaline of shared purpose kept us upright. When I finally slipped into her guest room, Vivian paused in the doorway. "You sure about tomorrow?" she asked, voice fragile. "Terrified," I admitted. "But sure." She leaned over, pressed a kiss to my forehead, soft, reverent, and left me with a comfort heavier than fear. Conference day cracked open cold and sky blue. Vivian's styling team descended at sunrise. They shoved me into a chair, tamed my curls into loose waves, brushed natural blush onto cheeks that still felt too freckled for prime time. Vivian knocked away a stylist fussing with her blazer hem and laced our fingers instead. "If you faint," she whispered, "I'll faint first to distract them." That's terrible crisis management. See, we're already co-founders. Downstairs, the hotel ballroom buzzed. Cameras perched on tripods, reporters murmuring. The stage held 2 stools, 2 microphones, and a florist's table spilling with prototype arrangements. Orchids folded into geometric glass, garden roses nested beside wired sensor tags that would track temperature in transit. The moderator introduced us. Vivian strode on stage first, boots clicking decisive beats. Followed pulse a jackhammer. Flashbulbs burst. The crowd leaned forward like a single organism hungry for missteps. Vivian opened. "Good morning. Headlines have speculated about my personal life. Rather than let strangers define it, I'd like to introduce you to the person in question. Samantha Wood, my partner in life and in a new venture we're announcing today." A wave of whispers rippled. She gestured to the bouquets. "We're launching Route and Circuit, merging sustainable floral design with AI-driven cold chain delivery. Sam is creative director and co-owner. My board has voiced concerns. I respect them. But my position as CEO and as a human is simple. Innovation thrives on authenticity. This is mine." Reporters fired questions. Stock projections, governance conflicts, our timeline from first meeting to relationship. Some inquiries cut deep. "Is Ms. Wood a gold digger? Are you exploiting diversity optics?" Vivian answered with calm steel. When a reporter asked if I feared being a passing infatuation, I leaned into the mic. "I've spent years delivering other people's love in vases. I know what withers when neglected and what survives storms. We're choosing sunlight." The room hushed, a rare, fragile stillness. Vivian's hand found my thigh under the table. Squeeze of pride and gratitude. After 40 minutes, the moderator thanked the crowd. Applause erupted, a mix of genuine support and the courtroom clack of journalists eager to file hot takes. Cameras lingered as Vivian helped me off the stool. We exited backstage into a flurry of aides and ringing phones. One assistant flashed a tablet. "Stock down only 0.3%, stabilizing." Vivian released a shaky exhale. I answered with a smile that felt earned. But triumph lasted seconds. A security guard hustled over, earpiece crackling. "Ms. Laurent, paparazzi breached the service lot. They're blocking both exits." Vivian's shoulders squared. "Get Sam to the car, I'll handle." "No," I said, fire blooming where fear once lived. "Together, remember?" She nodded. We slipped through a side corridor and burst into the rear lot where cameras popped like gunfire. Shouts ricocheted. "Vivian, over here." "Sam, how much is the payout?" Taunts designed to provoke. Vivian's fingers tightened around mine. I raised my chin, let flashes paint constellations across my vision. Step by step, we crossed the gauntlet, climbed into the chauffeured SUV. Doors slammed. Silence cocooned us. Vivian's hand trembled in mine, not from fear but release. She turned, eyes shining. "You were brilliant. So were you." I brushed a rogue curl from her forehead. "Stage fright 0. Us 1. She laughed, the sound unsteady but free. Outside, reporters banged palms against tinted glass, but it felt distant, irrelevant. Inside, possibility thrummed louder. A chord struck clear and strong. The driver pulled into traffic. Rain began, a soft percussion on the roof, countless tiny fists cheering our escape. Vivian intertwined our fingers, rested them on the armrest and whispered, "This is the beginning, you know." I tilted my head to rest against hers. "Beginnings are my specialty," I said, thinking of seedlings pushing through soil, of bouquets traveling dawn highways, of love taking root in the least probable cracks. She smiled, a curve of lips sharp as resolve, soft as midnight fireside confessions. And as the city blurred into gray ribbons outside our moving haven, I believed, truly finally, that we could weather whatever storm waited on the horizon, as long as we held the line together. 6 weeks after the press conference gauntlet, February hurled an ice storm across Chicago that shuttered schools, iced the river solid, and turned Vivian's penthouse windows into fogged mirrors. We were sprawled on the living room floor, laptops open, mapping beta routes for Root and Circuit's first Valentine's shipments. A stock ticker scrolled across one screen, her company's share price shivering but steady, while my sketchpad bloomed with bouquets that fused traditional stems with microsensors. At noon her assistant pinged. "Board vote moved to 3 p.m. today. Proxy hammer coming down." That single line yanked the air from the room. If they ousted her, our fledgling venture could die before its first delivery. Vivian closed her laptop, eyes glass-bright but fierce. "If they want the throne, they'll have to pry it from my frostbitten hands." I cupped her cheeks, thumbs brushing the worry at her temples. "Then give them a reason to keep you," I said. "Show them numbers, show them vision. Show them you're still the best bet in the room." She exhaled, steadying. "Come with me. Front row seat," I promised. The boardroom sat 31 floors below the penthouse, all chrome edges and panoramic lake views. 11 directors formed a curved line of power suits. At their center, Elias Harper tapped a Mont Blanc pen like a metronome of skepticism. I perched in the visitors' row, black jeans, blazer 2 sizes too big, heart thundering loud as the HVAC. Vivian rose, remote in hand. Slide 1. Projected Q2 revenue uptick tied to Root and Circuit integration. A fresh consumer vertical, low capex, high brand halo. Slide 2. A 3-month pilot already pre-sold to 40 luxury hotels, each promised same-day floral refresh powered by her AI route engine. Slide 3. Sustainability metrics slicing carbon output by 22% compared to industry average. She finished with a photo. Us elbow-deep in peony crates, laughing, sleeves rolled. "Innovation isn't code," she said, voice ringing clear. "It's people. Bet on people willing to risk everything for what they love." Silence, thick as lake ice. Then an older director cleared her throat. "Motion to retain Ms. Laurent as CEO and fund the pilot." Hands rose. 8 in favor, 2 against, 1 abstention. Gavel strike. Carried. Relief slammed into my lungs. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. Vivian's shoulders dropped an inch, steel giving way to soft triumph. When the meeting adjourned, she strode straight to me, ignoring the photographers lurking by the elevators, and kissed me, brief but blazing, before anyone could weaponize the moment. Flashes popped. She didn't flinch. A headline would run by dusk, I knew, but this time we'd written the caption ourselves. March thawed the city. Valentine's proved a baptism by blizzard. Vans skidding through slush, sensors pinging temperature dips, bouquets arriving frost-kissed yet miraculously alive. Customer reviews read like love letters. Investors called Root and Circuit the sweetest proof of concept in years. Vivian slept maybe 4 hours a night, code and capital swirling behind her eyes. I learned supply chain acronyms. She learned the difference between ranunculus and anemone. We fought once, over which partners to court, slamming doors then finding each other in the hallway, apologies soft as petals. Love, I discovered, isn't the absence of conflict. It's knowing which battles end in shared laughter. Spring equinox arrived with a charity gala at the Field Museum, Vivian's first public red carpet since the scandal. I wore a midnight green jumpsuit. She chose a black velvet tux that framed her like an exclamation mark. As we stepped beneath the marble arches, microphones angled for blood. Sam, any comment on punching above your weight class? Someone jeered. I smiled, lifted a hand clad in work-calloused grace, and answered, "Love isn't a weight division." Vivian barked a laugh. The crowd, surprisingly, clapped. Inside the main hall, amid ancient fossils and tangerine uplights, Root and Circuit unveiled its debut installation, a 40-foot spiral of live orchids threaded with luminescent fiber, each blossom pulsing soft light in time with ambient music. Guests circled, entranced. Orders poured through the event app faster than the servers refilled champagne. Elias Harper approached, expression begrudgingly impressed. "Seems your florist revolution has legs," he muttered to Vivian. She squeezed my hand beneath the tablecloth and answered, "Roots, Elias. It has roots." At midnight the gala dimmed. Outside, rain polished Michigan Avenue into a river of neon. We slipped away, coats forgotten, shoes dangling from fingertips, puddles licking bare ankles. On a pedestrian bridge above the river, wind tangling her hair, Vivian stopped. "Everything changed in a delivery elevator," she said, wonder tinting her voice. "A girl dripping rain on marble floors turned my life upside down." I traced the curve of her jaw. "Correction, we right-sided it." She reached into her tux pocket, pulled a tiny loop of silver, two intertwined stems forming a circle. A ring. My breath hitched. "I'm not asking today," she said quickly, voice trembling. "But I need you to know, whenever you're ready, I'm ready, to build a greenhouse, a marriage, a life, whatever we can coax to bloom." Tears blurred the river lights. I slipped the ring onto my smallest finger, a promise, not yet a vow, and kissed her beneath street lamp glow. Thunder rumbled far off, summer forming on the horizon. For once, I felt no fear of approaching storms. June sunrise over Humboldt Park, 6 a.m. vendors set up our first public pop-up, Root and Circuit banners fluttering like monarch wings. Vivian lugged crates, hair braided, sweat beading along her temple. No cameras, no heels, just us and soil-stained hustle. I opened the van doors. Fragrance spilled into morning air. Dozens of city cyclists, drawn by color, rolled to a stop. A little girl tugged her mother toward a display of senza-glazed sunflowers. "Mama, they sparkle," she squealed. Vivian crouched, offered her a blossom still vibrating from the truck ride. "Take it," she said. The child's grin lit the street brighter than daybreak. As the crowd thickened, I caught Vivian's eye over a sea of petals. She wiped pollen on her jeans and flashed the smile that once undid me in a penthouse doorway. I crossed to her, lifted my phone, and snapped a candid. Hair messy, cheeks flushed, billionaire disguised as florist. Caption drafted in my head. She traded boardrooms for bouquets this morning. Turns out both smell like victory. I pressed send to Root and Circuit socials, then tucked the phone away. The market stall buzzed, sunlight climbing. Love, messy, public, unstoppable, rooted itself deeper with every heartbeat. And somewhere between swiping credit cards and tying burlap ribbons, I realized the world's noise had finally dulled to background hum. All that remained clear was the rhythm of two lives intertwining, growing outward and upward, petal by stubborn petal, toward a sky wide enough for both of us.